If the world is simply mirroring who you're becoming, will you change yourself or keep waiting for the world to change first? There's one principle every high achiever knows, but few dare to live. Act as if your dream is already real. What if the fastest way to success isn't chasing it, but behaving like you've already arrived? Have you ever wondered why some people seem to pull success toward them like a magnet, as if the universe itself is bending in their favor? It's not luck, it's not privilege. It's a powerful psychological principle, one that very few ever fully grasp. These individuals live as if their dreams have already materialized. They speak with clarity, move with purpose, and think like winners long before their achievements become visible to the world. When you begin embodying your future self, imagining, speaking, and behaving like the version of you who has already accomplished your greatest goals, something extraordinary happens in your brain. New neural pathways begin to form, quietly laying the foundation for a reality that once felt impossible. The contrast couldn't be more stark. If you continue to doubt yourself, to walk timidly through life as though you're undeserving, then opportunity will slip through your fingers before you even recognize it. But if you begin each day walking with the quiet confidence of someone who's already succeeded, something shifts. Reality begins to mirror your mindset. You no longer chase success. It starts chasing you. This is not a fantasy. It's how your mind works. The question is, are you willing to activate that power? Very soon, you're going to discover how to develop the habits, the mental models, and the emotional resilience that successful people don't just use, they embody. And it all begins with one of the most underappreciated forces in human potential, the power of mental rehearsal. Inside your thoughts lies a force more potent than any external tool or resource. Every building, invention, revolution, and masterpiece first existed as a thought, an imagined reality before it was born into the physical world. The vision always comes first. The greatest achievers in history knew this. They understood that if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. That's the essence of mental rehearsal in your subconscious. It doesn't care whether something is real or vividly imagined. It reacts the same way. It builds the neural circuits, triggers the emotions, and even alters your physical state based on your thoughts alone. Think about Roger Bannister. At a time when scientists claimed that breaking the 4-minute mile was physically impossible, he rehearsed the moment mentally again and again. He didn't just train his legs, he trained his mind. And when the body finally followed the world, witnessed the impossible become fact. You possess that same potential. Try this each morning. Close your eyes and vividly imagine your goals as already achieved. Picture the scene, hear the sounds, and most importantly, feel the emotions of victory. When you rise and walk through your day, do so with the posture of someone who has already made it. Speak like you belong in the room. Use the language of certainty and success. Over time, your subconscious will begin to accept this as reality, and from there, it starts moving mountains in your favor. But there's more to this than just visualization. Let's talk about the law of attraction, a principle that, when understood, becomes a tool of transformation. Have you ever seen someone who just seems to effortlessly draw opportunities, wealth, and connections to themselves? While others struggle, they glide. Why? It often has less to do with what they do and more with what energy they bring into each moment. The universe, it turns out, responds to frequency. The law of attraction tells us like attracts like. Your thoughts are not passive, they are magnetic. With every word you speak and every image you entertain, you're sending out a signal. That signal pulls in people, ideas, events, and circumstances that match your internal state. This is not wishful fantasy. It's backed by both psychological principles and quantum physics. In quantum theory, the observer effect shows us something astonishing. The very act of observation changes how particles behave. It suggests that consciousness is not separate from reality, but intertwined with it. So when you act as if your goals are already achieved, you're not lying to yourself. You're tuning your entire system, thoughts, emotions, posture, and language to the frequency of the life you desire. You begin to resonate with success, and success, like an echo, begins to answer back. One man who understood this was Thomas Watson, founder of IBM, long before the company became a titan of the tech industry. He implemented a radical idea. He instructed his team to behave as if they were already the best. They wore sharp suits. They spoke with certainty. They didn't fake confidence, they claimed it, and the world responded. You must understand this. Whatever you focus on, you amplify. This is the science of selective attention. Your brain filters millions of inputs each day and only brings into focus what aligns with your dominant thoughts. If you dwell on fear, lack, or doubt, your mind will seek evidence of limitation everywhere you look. But if you shift your mindset toward possibility and abundance, suddenly doors appear where there used to be walls. One of the quickest ways to do this is by transforming your vocabulary. Words carry energy. When you speak, you're not just describing reality, you're designing it. Eliminate phrases like, I can't, I'm not ready, or that's impossible. Replace them with language that affirms power and purpose. For example, say I'm directing my energy toward my highest goals, or I am building the resources I need to succeed. These are not empty affirmations, they are commands to your subconscious mind, and your subconscious obeys. Think of yourself as an architect carefully selecting each thought, each word, each action, as if you're designing the blueprint of your future life, because you are in the universe. It responds not to your wishes, but to your alignment. Here's the hard truth. This principle doesn't care about your past failures or your current doubts. It only responds to what you broadcast right now. Change the broadcast and everything else begins to change with it. The most successful individuals didn't wait for conditions to improve. They improved themselves. They acted from their vision, not their history. So now comes the turning point. What if your identity, not your effort, is the real key to unlocking extraordinary results? What if success has less to do with what you do and everything to do with who you believe you are? In the next section, we'll explore this hidden truth and why your self-image might be the final gatekeeper between where you are and where you're meant to be. In the previous section, you saw how everything begins not with the world around you, but with the world within you. Your thoughts, your language, your posture all become part of a new energetic signature when you begin acting as if you've already become the person you wish to be. But what truly makes that change permanent, powerful, and inevitable is something deeper. Because the truth is, no lasting transformation can occur unless you undergo an identity shift. That's right, not just a shift in behavior, but in identity. You can build habits, set goals, make vision boards, or repeat affirmations. But if at your core you still identify as the old you, someone who's trying someone who's not there yet, someone who's working on it, then every new habit you create will be short-lived. It will be built on sand, because sooner or later your life always returns to reflect who you believe you are. So let's break this open. Imagine two people starting a fitness journey. The first says, I'm trying to get in shape. The second says, I am an athlete. They might be at the exact same starting line physically, but psychologically they are worlds apart. The first identifies as someone who is still becoming. The second speaks from identity they already are. And the difference it will show in how they eat, train, rest, is speak and carry themselves. This isn't about pretending or bluffing. This is about choosing a new operating system, one that runs your thoughts, choices, emotions, and momentum. And when that operating system changes, your whole reality follows. This truth is not new. In fact, history gives us a stunning case study. When President John F. Kennedy stood before Congress and later before students at Rice University in 1962, the United States was not winning the space race. Far from it, the Soviet Union had already made landmark advances in space exploration. America, by comparison, was behind scientifically, politically, even emotionally. But Kennedy didn't speak like a man from a nation that was catching up. He didn't frame space as a possibility. He declared it as destiny. We choose to go to the moon in this decade, not because it is easy, but because it is hard. That wasn't just a goal, it was an identity shift, a moment where a leader aligned the entire country with a new self-concept. We are the kind of people who do the impossible. We are pioneers, not followers, and that shift in identity rippled outward. Engineers stopped thinking like employees. Scientists stopped seeing limits. Thousands began to embody the mindset of those already destined for greatness. And less than a decade later, Neil Armstrong stood on the moon because a nation believed in its new identity before the evidence arrived. Now bring that back to your life. What are you waiting to see before you believe it? What success are you postponing until the external world gives you permission to claim it? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your current results, your finances, health, relationships, opportunities are not coincidences. They are reflections of your current self-image. So if you want new results, don't chase outcomes. Redefine who you are. Ask yourself the most important question on this journey. Who would I be if I had already achieved my biggest dream? Be specific. Visualize that future version of yourself in high definition. What time do they wake up in the morning? Shuri, how do they carry themselves when they walk into a room? Shursto, how do they respond under pressure? Touch, what kind of words do they use daily? Bahwas, who do they surround themselves with? What do they no longer tolerate? Now comes the leap, live that identity. Now speak like that person, think like that person, choose your priorities like they would. Not as a gimmick, not as fake it till you make it, but as an intentional declaration of who you've decided to become. Because here's the secret, your subconscious mind cannot tolerate contradictions for long. If your actions say one thing, I'm powerful, I'm focused, I'm thriving, but your old beliefs say otherwise, your nervous system enters what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. That discomfort forces change. And if your external behavior keeps reflecting the new identity long enough, your internal self-image must rise to match it. That's how transformation becomes permanent. The people who do the impossible in life build empires, create art that changes the world, overcome impossible odds. They don't wait for success to shift their identity. They shift their identity and then success follows. So start now, literally now. Take out a notebook and write a vivid, detailed description of the version of yourself who has already arrived. What they do, what they believe, how they think, how they act, how they treat others, and how they treat themselves. And then ask yourself this every single day: what would that version of me do in this moment? Would they procrastinate? Would they scroll? Would they give in to fear, or would they rise? And whatever answer you hear, act on it immediately. This is not visualization. This is integration. You're not playing dress up. You're not faking it. You are shedding layers of who you are, not to finally walk as who you were meant to be. Because here's another truth. The identity you're holding right now was constructed. It was shaped by experiences, influences, and beliefs that might no longer serve your destiny. Maybe it was built by parents who feared risk, teachers who misunderstood you, past failures that left scars. That version of you may have served a purpose once, but now it's time to build something truer, stronger, aligned with the life you're ready to claim. But even as you begin stepping into this powerful new identity, there is a force that lurks quietly in the background, one that has stopped more dreams than doubt, distraction, or even lack of talent. It's fear. Not just any fear, but the fear of failure. This fear doesn't shout, it whispers. It disguises itself as caution, logic, even being realistic. It tells you the pain of trying and falling short isn't worth the reward of becoming who you truly are. And unless you learn how to face it head on, it will sabotage every shift you try to make, no matter how powerful your intentions are. But here's the truth you're about to learn. The most successful, fulfilled, extraordinary people in history did not eliminate fear. They transformed their relationship with it. In the last section, we exposed one of the most deceptive forces holding people back: the fear of failure. Not the loud, obvious kind, but the silent whisper that says, don't risk it. Stay safe. What if you fall flat? You learn that success doesn't come from eliminating fear. It comes from moving through it, armed with a mindset of inevitability. And now we go deeper, because what makes that mindset sustainable? It's a form of neurological reprogramming, a transformation in how your brain interprets the world around you. When you move through life as if your success has already been confirmed, written into the blueprint of your destiny, you stop interpreting obstacles as evidence of failure. Instead, you start seeing them for what they truly are: essential resistance training for greatness. Challenges are no longer setbacks. They become signals. A failed launch, a delayed opportunity, a difficult conversation. These are not signs that you're off course. They're confirmation that you're in motion, being refined, prepared and reshaped to rise to your calling. Each disappointment is a weight added to your barbell, strengthening the muscle of resilience. And this isn't just poetic inspiration, it's grounded in psychology. When you train your mind to interpret failure as feedback rather than finality, your brain literally rewires. Neural networks are strengthened around growth, learning, and persistence. You stop seeking comfort and start seeking capacity. You evolve. Remember, this failure is never final unless you label it that way. What we call defeat is often nothing more than redirection. Delay is not denial, it's divine timing, gifting you the exact refinement required for long-term success. A closed door might be protection. A rejection letter might be the pivot you needed to discover your deeper mission. When you act from the belief that you cannot truly fail, not out of arrogance but from deep internal certainty, you unlock a completely different level of action. You become bolder. You begin to do things most people never attempt. Not because you're blind to risk, but because you've reframed it. You've realized that risk is where meaning lives. The greatest minds in human history weren't fearless. They were simply unwilling to let fear be the final voice. They understood that courage is not the absence of fear, but forward movement in spite of it. They moved ahead with trembling hands and pounding hearts, but they moved anyway, and eventually the fear lost its power. You can build this same resilience. Begin today with this internal posture. My success is inevitable. Obstacles are simply the raw material from which I will shape my destiny. And once you adopt this identity of someone who persists, adapts, and transcends your environment, your routine and your daily actions must evolve to support it. That brings us to one of the most overlooked yet most powerful tools of personal transformation. Your daily rituals. Most people drastically overestimate what they can do in a day and tragically underestimate what they can achieve in a decade. This mismatch in perspective leads them to chase big flashy wins, breakthroughs, viral success, miracle moments while ignoring the real engine of progress. Small, consistent actions performed daily. Your life is not the sum of your intentions. It's the accumulation of tiny decisions made hour by hour. And when those micro decisions are aligned with your highest identity, they become unstoppable. Let's illustrate this through one of the greatest examples of identity-aligned leadership, Vince Lombardi and the Green Bay Packers. When Lombardi took over the team, they were anything but champions. They had just come off a season with only one win. But he didn't start with talent acquisition or flashy strategies. He started with rituals, small, daily, boring to most practices that reprogrammed his players' identities. Lombardi obsessed over the fundamentals. His players practiced basic drills with such discipline and intensity that they developed not just skill, but belief. Every detail mattered. How they warmed up, how they shook hands, how they greeted each other, how they dressed when arriving at the facility. This wasn't micromanagement, it was identity conditioning. He made them behave like champions before they won a single title. And what happened? Within 7 years, the Packers won 5 NFL championships, a dynasty born not from talent, but from transformation. You must treat your life the same way. Start with one of the most powerful but underutilized rituals, elevating your appearance. Each morning, dress just slightly better than what's expected of you. This simple act sends a signal to your subconscious mind. I'm rising. I'm preparing for the next level. It's not vanity, it's neuroassociation. When you look like someone who belongs at the next level, you begin to act accordingly. Your brain takes visual cues and updates your emotional state to match. Next, upgrade your physical environment. Your workspace is a reflection of your self-image. Is it cluttered, chaotic, neglected, or is it clean, intentional, curated for performance? Start organizing your tools, devices, and materials as if you were already at your dream job or leading your ideal business. Eliminate visual noise. Create order. Your surroundings are constantly sending signals to your brain about what's normal for you. Then curate your intellectual environment. Stop letting random information into your mind. Choose your input like an athlete chooses fuel. Feed your brain with the kind of content, conversations, and ideas your future self would absorb daily. Not because it's trendy, but because it's strategic. Mental conditioning is just as real as physical conditioning. The more you consume ideas at the level you want to live, the more your brain builds new neural connections that process reality through higher filters. What once seemed unreachable becomes obvious. Finally, implement one of the most underrated yet transformational rituals daily reflection. At the end of each day, document your wins not just in tasks completed, but in identity strengthened. Don't just say, I got this done. Say I showed up today like someone who's becoming extraordinary. I spoke up. I took aligned action. I made a powerful choice. This simple reframing creates momentum. It reaffirms that your rituals are not a performance, but a reflection of your evolving self-image. And yes, this entire process may feel awkward at first. You might feel like you're pretending, like you're acting out a role you haven't earned yet. But that discomfort, that's exactly the sign you're on the right track. You are stretching the borders of who you believe yourself to be. The psychological tension you feel is cognitive dissonance, and it's not your enemy. It's your teacher. It's your brain acknowledging the gap between your current self-image and your new behaviors. And here's the magic. The longer you keep acting like your future self, the more your subconscious will work to eliminate that gap by elevating your identity to match your rituals. Growth always feels strange at first, because becoming someone new requires saying goodbye to old limitations, familiar patterns, and false comfort. But stay with it. Lean into the awkwardness that is the very soil in which transformation takes root. And yet there is one more layer to this journey, one that determines whether your rituals will flourish or fade. It's not just what you do, it's how you feel while doing it. In the next section, we'll uncover the secret ingredient that powers lasting change, emotional energy, and how to channel it each day so your actions are not only consistent, but deeply aligned with purpose. As we explored in the last section, the discomfort you feel when stepping into a higher version of yourself is not a flaw. It's evidence that your brain is being rewired. Day by day, action by action, you're literally reconditioning your nervous system to operate at a more powerful level. At first, these new behaviors require conscious effort. Waking up earlier, speaking with certainty, making decisions from vision instead of fear. But with repetition, those once difficult actions begin to carve permanent neural pathways in your brain. And over time, what once felt forced becomes natural. The person you were trying to become is now the person you are. That is the power of persistence through temporary discomfort. Eventually, these championship behaviors, the confident posture, the focused decision-making, the disciplined habits, become your default settings. And that's when transformation locks in. That's when you no longer have to try to be extraordinary, because you've become someone for whom excellence is the norm. Let's be clear. The path to extraordinary achievement is not paved with once-in-a-while heroic efforts. It is built on simple, strategic, repeated rituals done daily with unwavering focus and intention. And there is one force that fuels and multiplies the impact of those rituals. Your language. Yes, language. Not just what you say out loud, but what you whisper to yourself when no one's watching. Most people underestimate the power of words, but words are not just descriptions, they're instructions. Every word you speak programs your nervous system. It either reinforces your current identity or pulls you toward a new one. Language isn't passive, it's generative. It literally shapes the neural architecture through which you process life. So when you decide to live as if you've already achieved your goals, your language must follow. You can't say, I hope this works out, and expect your mind to believe you're destined for greatness. You must become radically intentional with your language, both internal and external. You must begin speaking with clarity, confidence, and conviction before the results show up. One of history's most powerful examples of language transforming reality happened during one of Britain's darkest hours. It was 1940. Nazi forces were sweeping across Europe. The British military had just suffered a brutal setback at Dunkirk. Fear was spreading, defeat seemed not just possible, but imminent. And yet in that moment of existential crisis, Prime Minister Winston Churchill stepped forward. Not with hesitation, not with, we'll try not with maybe. He stood before Parliament and delivered these now immortal words. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. These were not just poetic phrases. They were psychological commands transmitted to the entire British population. His language created a mental fortress stronger than any bomb shelter. In doing so, Churchill shifted an entire nation's identity from one of fear and fragility to one of unbreakable defiance. And that's what your words can do for you. They are the architecture of your internal world. When spoken with precision and belief, they build mental scaffolding strong enough to carry the weight of your biggest goals. So now it's your turn to build. Start by conducting a language audit. Pay close attention to the phrases you use, especially during stress, doubt, or uncertainty. Identify and eliminate the linguistic patterns of limitation. I'll try. Maybe it'll work. With luck. I hope to. I wish. These are not harmless habits. They are subconscious commands that drain your power. Now replace them with decisive declarations. Like, I am. I'm going to soar. I will. Sion and Sorn. I choose. I know. Here wonder and I create. Consider the profound neurological difference between these two statements. I hope I can close that deal versus I will close that deal. I'm already aligning every resource toward it. The first triggers hesitation, stress, and subconscious disengagement. The second activates the brain's resourcefulness and primes it for committed action. This isn't just semantics, it's neurological precision. And it's not just what you say, it's also what you ask. Because here's something most people don't realize. Questions are the most powerful form of language. Why? Because questions direct attention, and what you focus on expands. Your brain is a solution-finding machine. Whatever you ask it, it will try to answer. So when you ask, why is this so hard, your mind gives you 10 reasons to suffer. But when you ask, what's the best way to turn this to my advantage, your brain shifts instantly into innovation and possibility. So train yourself to ask empowering questions. Replace what if I fail with how exactly will I succeed. Replace why me with what can I learn here that no one else sees. Certainly, or replace what's the worst that could happen with what's the best outcome I'm creating. This shift is subtle but life-altering. These better questions generate better thinking, and better thinking leads to bolder action, better results, and higher identity alignment. Your words become your world. Every sentence is a code programming your subconscious to either settle or soar. So from today forward, speak like the person you're becoming. Speak from the mountaintop, not the valley. When your external words and internal voice both align with your highest self, the rest of your life begins to move in rhythm with that identity. And now we arrive at the final piece of this powerful puzzle. Your environment, because no matter how aligned your language is, if you live inside an environment that contradicts your new identity every single day, you will eventually regress. Human beings, like water, follow the path of least resistance, and your environment, the people you interact with, the places you spend time, and the information you absorb, and even the objects that surround you form the invisible script that tells your subconscious what is normal, acceptable, and possible. So ask yourself, are your surroundings reinforcing the old version of you? Or are they supporting the person you're working to become? One man understood this better than almost anyone in history, Andrew Carnegie. He rose from extreme poverty as a Scottish immigrant to become the richest man in the world. When asked the secret to his meteoric success, Carnegie didn't speak about ambition or intelligence. He credited a single principle, the mastermind. This was Carnegie's practice of deliberately surrounding himself with brilliant thinkers, people whose minds were sharper than his in specific fields. He cultivated a circle of excellence, a human environment that challenged his limits and elevated his thinking daily. He knew that your potential will always rise or fall to the level of the people around you. And so if you're serious about becoming your next level self, you must begin crafting an environment that mirrors that version of you. In the next section, you'll learn how to do exactly that, how to engineer a world around you that reinforces your new identity and eliminates friction between who you are and who you're becoming. In the previous section, you learned how your environment, both internal and external, becomes the stage on which your identity is continuously reinforced. Now we go even deeper into how you can engineer your surroundings, not after you've succeeded, but as a strategic prerequisite to success. One of the most remarkable examples of this principle in action comes from none other than Andrew Carnegie. What made Carnegie's strategy so powerful wasn't that he surrounded himself with brilliant minds after becoming wealthy. It was that he intentionally aligned with exceptional individuals while he was still climbing. Long before he amassed his historic fortune, Carnegie was seeking out those who could challenge his thinking, stretch his vision, and model the level of excellence he aspired to embody. He understood a profound truth. Environmental elevation must come before personal elevation. He didn't wait until he deserved to be around greatness. He placed himself in greatness so he could become it, and you must do the same. Begin by conducting a deep, honest inventory of your current human environment. Take a look at the 5 people you spend the most time with. Their attitudes, beliefs, and energy form a kind of collective emotional average that your brain will unconsciously adapt to. This isn't theory, it's psychology. Your mind is always seeking alignment with your tribe. If those around you normalize mediocrity, doubt procrastination, or excuses, you will either silently conform or constantly struggle to rise. If you want to transform, you must expand your circle intentionally. This doesn't require cutting ties with everyone in your life. It simply means you begin supplementing your influences with higher caliber input. Start seeking out mentors, people who are already living the life you aspire to. This can mean direct mentorship or indirect exposure. Through books, interviews, courses, and mastermind groups, immerse yourself in communities where excellence is the norm, not the exception. Read the biographies of giants who've walked paths similar to yours. Study how they thought, how they reacted to adversity, how they structured their time and environment. Their journey will become a mirror for your own. And yes, there may come a moment when you must lovingly distance yourself from people who intentionally or not undermine your vision. This isn't about judgment or arrogance, it's about psychological protection. Just as a plant cannot thrive in toxic soil, your highest aspirations cannot grow in a space polluted by doubt, cynicism, or small thinking. And this principle doesn't stop with your social circle. Your physical environment is just as crucial. Your workspace, your vehicle, your wardrobe, your digital tools. These are all extensions of your self-image. They send silent messages to your subconscious mind about who you are and what you expect from life. So begin upgrading these touch points of identity. Organize your workspace as if you were already operating at your dream level. Remove clutter. Add clarity. Design systems that support focus and flow. Dress not for where you are, but for where you're going. When you elevate your appearance, you communicate not just to others, but to yourself. I belong at the next level. Invest in the tools your future self would naturally use. If you were already the successful entrepreneur, the visionary artist, the world-class leader, what tools would you consider non-negotiable? These physical upgrades may feel uncomfortable at first. You might hear the inner voice say, "Who do you think you are?" Or "This feels fake." But that discomfort isn't a red flag. It's a confirmation that you're actively challenging your old identity. You're no longer decorating the prison of your limitations. You're building a space for your freedom. Every environmental upgrade becomes a pattern. Interrupt a way of jolting your brain out of autopilot and into possibility. Why does this work? Because consciousness follows attention, and attention follows symbols. When your surroundings are filled with symbols of success, they reinforce dominant thoughts of expansion, excellence, and progress. Your life begins to reflect your environment because your brain starts treating those symbols as instructions. So here's your next challenge. Choose one aspect of your environment, physical or human, that most contradicts the identity you're cultivating. Maybe it's a toxic friendship, a messy workspace, an outdated wardrobe, a distracting app. Whatever it is, upgrade it within the next 7 days. This one change will create a ripple effect. It will generate momentum. And that momentum will trigger more aligned decisions until your entire life becomes an extension of the person you've decided to be. But identity, language, and environment still need one final force to ignite lasting transformation. Bold, inspired action. You see, many people misunderstand the principle of acting as if. They reduce it to visualization, journaling, or dreaming and stop there. But mental rehearsal, while powerful, is only half the formula. The other half is movement. Deliberate, bold, inspired action, executed from a place of inner certainty, not desperation. This is where most fall short. They wait for the confidence to act. But the truth is, confidence is often the result of action, not the precondition. So the question is, what would your future successful self be doing right now? And how can you start doing it immediately? Take a look at how Ray Kroc, the man who built McDonald's into a global powerhouse, embodied this principle to extraordinary effect. When Kroc discovered the McDonald Brothers restaurant in San Bernardino, he wasn't yet a business titan. He was 52 years old, struggling with health issues and working as a milkshake machine salesman. By most standards, he was nearing the end of a modest career. But mentally, emotionally, and energetically, Kroc was already operating as a visionary leader of a global franchise. In every interaction with potential franchisees, landlords, suppliers, he conducted himself with the precision and boldness of someone who already knew McDonald's would dominate the world. He didn't just hope, he embodied inevitability. That energetic posture didn't just attract opportunities, it magnetized them. And you can apply the same strategy. Start by creating a detailed profile of your future self. What time do they wake up? What do they focus on in the first 90 minutes of the day? How do they communicate? And what standards govern their business, their health, their relationships? Ari, what do they no longer tolerate? Kanilur, what do they invest their time, money, and energy in? Then collapse time. Don't wait 10 years to become that person. Live that profile now, not all at once, but through bold, consistent choices. If your future self starts every day by pitching 5 high-level clients, do it tomorrow. If your future self allocates 10% of their income toward investments, set it aside with your next paycheck. If your future self outsources all low-leverage tasks, begin automating or delegating today. Remember, it's not the action alone that matters. It's the consciousness from which it originates. If you act with fear, doubt, or a mindset of, I hope this works, the energy behind your actions will sabotage their impact. But when you act from certainty, even if the world hasn't caught up yet, your actions become magnetic, so don't wait for results to give you permission. Act as if the results are already yours. And if you do this, align your identity, your language, your environment, and your actions, then what once felt out of reach will begin to feel inevitable. But there's still one more layer to this transformation, because bold action requires consistent fuel and emotional power source that keeps you moving. Even when things get hard, you learn the power of embodying bold, inspired action, not as a performance, but as a declaration of inner truth. When you move from certainty, not desperation, when your energy speaks before your words do, something remarkable begins to happen. Even if that certainty remains invisible to the conscious eye, the subconscious mind can sense it instantly. This energetic distinction, though subtle, is profound. It determines whether people lean into your presence or pull away. When you approach a conversation, an opportunity, or a challenge from a place of inner assurance, rather than neediness, you emit a magnetic resonance. Doors that once stayed closed begin to swing open. Resources that seemed out of reach start to surface. People respond not just to your words, but to the frequency behind them. And this isn't mysticism, it's well-documented psychology. Studies in confidence and interpersonal influence show that people respond more positively to those who exhibit authentic certainty, not arrogance, but congruence. Micro-expressions, tone, posture, and phrasing all align when someone truly believes in what they're saying and doing. The human brain registers this alignment as trustworthy even before a single fact is proven. So how do you apply this? Begin by performing a clear, courageous audit of your current behavior. Where are you still hesitating, acting in ways that conflict with the person you say you want to become? Are you avoiding bold action your future self would consider essential? Are you tolerating environments, habits, or relationships your highest self would never accept? Are you still postponing the very decisions that would launch your transformation? Every point of misalignment between who you are and who you aspire to be creates energetic dissonance, a hidden resistance that slows or even blocks the manifestation of your goals. To eliminate this, you must bring your external actions into immediate alignment with your internal vision. This synchronization doesn't just build momentum, it generates a feedback loop of certainty. Each aligned action strengthens your belief, which enhances the energy behind the next action, which attracts bigger results, and the cycle accelerates. Understand this certainty is not something you recite, it is something you earn through action. Affirmations are only powerful when matched with movement. You cultivate conviction by acting as if your success is already inevitable, especially when the world has yet to catch up. That's when the real rewiring begins. Each time you choose bold, aligned action in the face of doubt, you reinforce the neural networks of certainty. What begins as a stretch becomes a stride. Eventually, this certainty is no longer something you wear. It becomes who you are. So today, identify one powerful action your future self would consider non-negotiable. Don't delay it. Don't negotiate with fear. Do it, no matter how small. That single decision will begin shifting your energetic blueprint. And at the very heart of this transformation, beneath the mindset, the habits, the language, and the action, is one final irreplaceable force: unshakable belief. Not surface-level optimism, not wishful thinking, but a deep-rooted conviction that transcends evidence. A belief so strong, it becomes the foundation for every other principle of success you've learned. This is the kind of belief that drove Henry Ford to revolutionize the manufacturing world when every expert told him it couldn't be done. His iconic quote still echoes, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't." You're right, it wasn't a clever slogan, it was his compass. You must develop the same kind of unwavering belief in your own vision. Start by gathering evidence that supports it, however small. Document every step forward. Celebrate every moment of courage. Read about those who've walked a similar path and prevailed. Feed your belief with facts of progress, not feelings of lack. And when doubt surfaces, and it will see it not as a warning, but as a signal. This is the edge of your old identity. Challenge that doubt. Ask, what if the opposite were true? What might I be missing? What else could this mean? Belief is not a result of perfect circumstances, it is a choice. Possibly the most important one you will ever make. Because when you choose belief, everything changes. Your thoughts sharpen. Your body moves differently. People treat you differently, and opportunities begin to appear in response to the identity you've claimed. Your brain doesn't distinguish between imagined experience and real experience. This is why visualization is not fluff. It is functional. It creates the same neural pathways as physical practice. Olympic athletes know this. They visualize their performance thousands of times before the starting gun fires. So by the time they step onto the track or into the ring, their bodies have already lived the success their minds rehearsed. The performance becomes a reflection of belief, not uncertainty, and this applies to your life as well. Whether you're building a business, healing a relationship, reclaiming your health, or stepping into leadership, how you see yourself changes how the world sees and responds to you. When you believe in your vision, your decisions become bolder. Your boundaries become clearer. Your communication becomes more compelling. You begin to operate not from hope, but from inevitability. This belief spreads. It's contagious. People are drawn to those who walk with quiet, unwavering confidence. They trust you. They want to join you. They follow your lead. But here's the final piece that locks it all in. Gratitude not for what you have, but for what you are becoming. One of the most powerful practices you can develop is future-focused gratitude. This is what Walt Disney practiced when he walked through empty orange groves in Anaheim, describing a magical kingdom that didn't yet exist. He gave thanks for the rides, the music, the joy, even when others thought he was delusional. He wasn't imagining, he was anchoring his belief into something tangible through gratitude. You must do the same. End each day by writing down 3 specific things you're grateful for, not as distant goals, but as present realities. Give thanks not just for effort, but for outcomes as if they've already arrived. Sherry, feel the emotion, picture the success, savor it. Hanma, be grateful for who you're becoming, not just for what you're achieving. Why? Because gratitude does 3 things. 1, it activates your reticular activating system, the brain's filter that begins noticing opportunities aligned with your vision. 2, it generates the elevated emotional states, hope, joy, resilience, that are prerequisites for peak performance. 3, and it closes the gap between who you are and who you are becoming. It brings the future into the now. Gratitude is the emotional glue that binds your belief to your behavior. And yes, some days will be harder than others. You'll face setbacks, criticism, delays, fatigue. But gratitude is what keeps your focus on progress, not pain, on growth, not gaps. When you can feel genuine gratitude before the outcome arrives, you align your subconscious with your conscious intent. And this inner alignment is what determines whether your dreams remain fantasies or become realities. History's greatest achievers understood this instinctively. Muhammad Ali declared, "I am the greatest," long before he won his first title. Entrepreneurs thank the universe for loyal clients before the first sale is ever made. Artists express gratitude for gallery shows before their collections are even complete. You don't need to be extraordinary to practice this. You just need to begin right now. Choose one area of your life. Visualize the transformation you desire. Express clear emotional gratitude as if it's already done. Let that emotion become your fuel. Let it color your decisions, shape your posture, guide your words. Let it be the atmosphere you live in, not the reward you wait for. And when life tests you, because it will come back to this moment, ask yourself, what would the highest version of me do here? Then do that and say thank you for the chance to rise. Because in the end, your future isn't waiting for you. It's responding to you with every belief, every action, every word, and every ounce of gratitude. You are becoming the person who no longer pretends. You are becoming the person who simply is. That is the power of acting as if. That is the path to a life fully lived. And it begins today with a decision.